Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. It's new Arcane journal time for Warhammer. The Old World and Games Workshop have very kindly sent me an advanced copy of the Razing of Westerland. So let's have a look at it. Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems and offer custom items to suit your club or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Make sure you check out their Old World compatible range. It's expanding all the time. New ranges are being added soon. Look at these fantastic generals tokens to help those of you who are forgetful remember in-game effects and spells and things like that. And look at these Old World Legacy Army token sets as well. Again, more of these are being added all the time and very nice they are. Check out the link in the video description. If this is your first time watching the channel, you may not have seen my Arcane Journal reviews before. And what I intend to do is give you an overview of the whole book, not just the rules. I won't just be skipping to those parts, though I will cover them. So if you don't like to hear about the lore and the other things that are in the book, you can skip on a little bit in the video and just focus in on those points. I won't spoil the lore completely to you. I'm not going to read it to you, but I will cover that side of the book and give my overall thoughts on it, and I'll include all the other elements as well, and of course finishing off by touching on the rules. And that's what I like to do, give you an overview that hopefully will inform your own decision whether you want to go and pick this up and buy it for yourself. So I won't be focusing just on how competitive something is within the meta. I like to focus on painting and the narrative and the lore, and I'll be bringing you a future video on the new Marauders as well. So it all fits in with that sort of general context of the release. So with that all in mind, let's get stuck into the book. And this Arcane journal is very much a continuation of the newer style of journals we have now. All the initial armies are out the way. They've had their Arcane journal with their armies of infamy, and that sort of standard format is slowly being moved away as we enter this new stage of a little bit more narrative in the Arcane journals, some extra rules and things to add flavour, and even the first sort of instances of full adjustments. We have new profiles for Marauders and Marauder Horse in here that replace the existing profiles in the Forces books, which is really interesting to show now that they're going back and changing things. And with them come the new miniatures as well, and very early on in their announcement people realised that they'll be on new base sizes, and that is the case. The profile here changes the base sizes in people's existing armies, and I know that will have a mixed reception from some different people. We got a nice mix of lores, some expansion of lore we've already been told in the last few books, some newer lore as well. We have a Path to Glory campaign system, which is really fun and links really well with Battle March and the themes of this book. We have those two redone profiles, so nothing new in terms of profile, but we do have new magic items and equipment and a whole new lore as well of magic, which is always exciting. So plenty for narrative and casual and more competitive gamers as well. Let's have a little look at the lore and the overview of what you might expect without really spoiling it for you. It begins kind of resetting the scene around Hollum and the invasion of Friedel, the Chainmaker. We saw this in the Warriors of Chaos Arcane Journal, and that's continued in other publications, and most recently in Dawn of the Storm Dragon, where the Cathay army has come to the aid of the Westerland people in the north of the Empire, and that sort of campaign is well and truly at hand. But it takes us back a little bit, resets the scene and provides the context for the story moving forward. After slightly retelling that tale, we move to the defence of Ostwald and the reconquest of the Wasteland, and it really is the kind of the continuing of that campaign as the Cathayan and Empire armies move on towards the north, recapturing some of the land that Friedel has taken. Very often in Arcane journals or previous army books, especially in older editions, in fact in Games Workshop writing style, the narrator and the story is told from the perspective of the main proponents of the story in the book. And it's not here, it's much more of a generalised story, and we see the Chaos armies in retreat with land being retaken with the aid of Cathay. So that's something that's slightly different. I quite like that the way the narrative is just spread throughout all these different Arcane journals, and it's one tale being told regardless of who the main protagonists are in the book itself. At the end of that first section, we have a beautiful double-page map. I love maps, and it's got all of the campaign maneuvers and things on there as well. So again, things we've seen before, but a little bit more zoomed in, and you can see the counter-offensive of the Empire and Cathayan armies. But the focus of this release is very much the Marauders. We've got new Marauder miniatures and slightly changed Marauder rules. And with that come some cults rules, which we'll come to later on. But the narrative side of those are set up really nicely in the next few pages of the book. We have a nice narrative exploration of the Marauder tribes and the gods that they are worshipping, which translate later in the book into those cults rules which you can choose for your troops. And first off, we have the Bloodied Hound, which is obviously Khorne, or known as Karnath in this version of the game, or at least to the Marauder tribes themselves. Chaos is at a lower ebb at the moment, and these Chaos gods are not quite as well known throughout the world, at least by the names we've come to know them as. I'm sure the Chaos warriors themselves will know their true names, but this is what the tribes would know them as, and we get a really nice sort of narrative explanation of what tribes that worship the Bloodied Hound or Karnath would be like. Of course, this continues for the other Chaos gods as well, and we have the Carrion Crow, or Nurgle, or Neaglin, as the Chaos Marauders would worship them, and we have a little bit of lore and text around what those clans would be like and how they would behave and what they would worship. We have the Slithering Serpent, or Shornel, or Slaanesh, as we know the god to be called. And it's very much the same Slaanesh that we know, but more of the god of excess, god of pride, god of arrogance, rather than the sort of 80s, 90s, slightly titillated side of the Slaanesh thing. And lastly, the Fell Raptor, or Char, which of course is a Tzeentch, and that's very much the god of trickery and all the things you'd expect Tzeentch to be. I really enjoyed these 4 pages. There's quite a lot of text there, gives you a really nice flavour of what to expect from those tribes. Obviously, the gods, as I've already mentioned, are a lower power ebb, and these tribes don't really know, I don't think, what they're worshipping to the full extent as it is anyway, but they know that if they're successful, they can still have gifts and move on the path, as we already know the way chaos works. But it's very nicely written, gives a really nice flavour to the way these gods are treated by the Marauders in Warhammer the Old World, which adds something that's the same, but also slightly different at the same time, if that makes sense. And I quite like it. It gives it a fresher approach, shows it at an older time, and means if you wanted to play down the Chaos gods a little bit, go to a slightly lower fantasy feel for your army, then you can do it in a way that kind of makes sense. We have some lovely colour plates, which always gives the gamers a nice idea how to paint their miniatures, including the correct iconography for each of the 4 cults, the 4 gods, and there's lots of decals and things in with the new miniatures as well, which will go on those banners, but it's always nice to see them illustrated in the book. The next part of the book is more lore, but I think it's slightly different to what we've seen in some of the other books. It's not purely connected to the narrative arc the book is taking, or all of the books and the game is taking at the moment, even though it is in the same time period and the characters mentioned within this brief tale also appear in that campaign. But it's a really nice way of setting up to the Path of Glory campaign that comes next. It reads like a historical tale of Ottar and Edis, 2 characters that we see both on their paths to glory. And I won't spoil what happens to them and how well they both do, but it shows the potential growth for a member of a Marauder tribe to grow up to the top of their tribe, lead them to glory, and maybe ascend in the future. And that's a really, really nice way to do it and tell a tale. As I said, does link slightly with Friedel's campaign, but could be taken away as its own thing. And it really kind of gives you an idea of the route to chaos from these Marauder tribes, and it sets it out very nicely. I really enjoyed reading it. I'm not sure if we will learn more of these characters in future books, or maybe they'll have profiles in the future. Would be really cool, or at least one of them, and it would be nice to see. I would like to see that. There's a nice map that shows the path of the journey for the characters, or one of these characters at least. I try not to spoil it too much for giving you an idea,
But it's good fun, and hopefully if you enjoy the lore, you'll enjoy it as well. And after a beautiful double colour spread of a new Warriors of Chaos army with all of the old Marauder miniatures replaced with the newer sculpts, and it looks really, really fantastic. They're attacking Westerland with lots of burning buildings in the background. We move on to the Path of Glory campaign. The Path to Glory campaign is something that's not new to Warhammer as a wider thing, and there's lots of versions available in different formats before, including Age of Sigmar. I think even 40k there was a version. But essentially it's an escalation building campaign from a laid-back narrative point of view, and that's what's delivered here in the 4 pages in this book. I'm planning on making a separate video that goes into this in a little bit more detail and gives some ideas of things I might like to do with it, and I'd love to get your feedback on it as well. But at its most basic level, you get an idea of setting up a campaign with a group of your friends where the aim is to grow your army starting at 500 points up to a full army, be that 2,000 or 2,500 points. And there's lots of different campaign phases. It gives you some tips about someone running the campaign, the overseer they call it here. It sets out ideas for rewards for doing well, a bit like you might receive at an event. So the overall winner at the end would be the champion. You can have points for best army, gives you ideas of what kind of battles and who's in charge, and getting campaign points for different kinds of wins, which games should count towards your victory points. And then you also have the escalation side, not just from the growth of your army as you go and play bigger and bigger games. Your veteran units can gain new experience, essentially XP, like you would have in a computer game, and you can spend it on giving your units extra buffs and things, and you can roll on tables to do that. We've got battlefield losses, which does the reverse. So maybe you have a veteran unit that loses some XP, which means it's no longer veteran, loses some of its power because it's now got more new recruits than it has old veterans. And the same goes for your leaders, your characters as well. They get to roll on tables with their XP to have extra stats or buff their stats. And also they can die or be promoted. So maybe your low-level champion character might become something slightly better when your army grows to 2,000 points or beyond. To veteran gamers who have maybe run leagues and escalations and things in their local club, there might not be an awful lot of brand new stuff there. The tables, though, are really, really nice, providing you with some ideas around XP and the veterans and all of that kind of stuff. I really like it. It's nice and simple and a brilliant way of getting new players into the game. Tie in Battle March from the previous Arcane journal in there as well, and you're starting at that 500 points level. So your first 2 or 3 rounds could be Battle March style games, and you're building your army, getting excited about what you're painting for the next battle. Your characters are getting more experience. You're building stories and narratives for it. I think it's just brilliant for it, and that's why I'm going to make a separate video on it. We have a few more pages of colour pictures, and some of those have been shared on the Warcon website as well, and they are absolutely fantastic. Loads of burning buildings. I've got a plan to do a tutorial how to make a burning building coming out soon, so do look out for that one. Lots of pictures of the new miniatures, as you can imagine. Beautiful longboats, Viking style longboats from the Norse Marauders landing on the shores of Westerland, which are fantastic as well. I'm sure they're not kits, much like the Cathayan ones don't look like they're going to be, and they're just stuff made up by the studio, but they do look stunning. Maybe a lot of it's Photoshop as well, but either way, they're really, really cool pictures. Love those kind of things. You always get the juices flowing for excited hobbyists. After this, we have 3 scenarios in the book, and down the bottom they're labelled as Path to Glory scenarios, but you could use these just as standalones as well, but they are very, very handy for the early stages of any Path to Glory campaign as well. So I'm not sure whether they're directly supposed to be linked with those or they're just in the book, but either way you could use them for anything you wanted. But they're very much linked to the current themes of the books, including the theme of the last book, which is the War of Settra's Fury. In terms of Battle March, they're all lower point scenario games. War in the Shadowlands is billed as a 500 point side game using the Battle March rules, and again it mentions using the Chaos Army and Wolves of the Sea fighting against each other. So this brings in the narratives of the warring tribes, and in that little story about Ottar and Edis as well, once you've read it it'll make more sense, which is always good fun. We have looting and pillaging. Again, it's a Battle March sized game, 500 points or 750, and again it sets it up as Chaos Warriors or Army of Infamy from Wolves of the Sea against Empire Grand Army, or surprisingly maybe non-Army of Infamy as well, rather than sort of Western theme like the Cathay and Jade Fleet, which I thought was a little bit interesting. Again, it always says you can use whatever armies you want anyway, and I'm sure people will, but this again is set around the tribes attacking the Empire and looting and pillaging, funnily enough. And then the last one is Hallowed Ground, again a smaller points game, 500 or 750, but it does mention you could use 1,000 points from a different muster list as well if you wanted to. And again, it's Warriors of Chaos, Wolves of the Sea, and then Empire, Null Empire. Again, lack of Jade Fleet there, but you can use whatever you want, and that's the most important thing. Nice scenarios, good fun, all very thematic with the book in terms of the actions that are going on in that campaign in Westerland and attacking the Empire, as you can imagine. But of course, it doesn't take much imagination to set them elsewhere. And then we have another beautiful double page spread with all of the new Marauder miniatures in there, facing off against Chaos Warriors, again showing the internal battles in the north, and some lovely Marauder huts. I'd love to know how they made those. Really love to see some modelling articles in these Arcane journals for stuff like that, or White Dwarf articles for it as well. They would be very cool. That is, of course, if they're not future plastic kits, but I have a feeling they're not. And that's the end of the purely narrative and casual laid back side of the book, and we move into the rules pages, which some more match play players will get excited about. Of course, all of these rules are relevant to all of the casual stuff as well, but we're here at the rules part, and the two profiles in this book are just redos of existing profiles. And as I mentioned at the top of the video, and I'm sure all of you are aware, they have changed the base sizes on the Chaos Marauders for the new miniatures. They come with 30mm bases, and there's a new profile that replaces the profile that is in this book, and there's a few other changes as well. It's not just the base size, we'll go over that now. Now the basic stat line and the points remain exactly the same, and including the unit size minimum of 5 as you'd expect. The first thing that changes, aside from the base size up to 30mm, is you get hand weapons and light armor now included in your 6 points, whereas before they were unarmored. So you now have a save included in that 6 points cost, which I think is a pretty good thing. No one's going to complain or turn that down. Makes them more survivable. We know that inventory has needed boosts at times in this game and probably continues to do so, and that is another step in the right direction. Now the weapon options are the same. The option to add light armor has been removed because you've got it already, but all the other things cost the same. So shields are still a point as well. So now you can have light armor and a shield for a 5-up save there, which is pretty cool. And there's other ways to boost your save as well. We'll find out later on. What has been removed, while they still have the Mark of Chaos Undivided as part of their rules, you now have the marks, individual marks, gone. So the removal of Mark of Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh have been removed completely, and they've been replaced with the Cult of the Bloodied Hound, the Cult of the Carrion Crow, the Cult of the Slithering Serpent, and the Cult of the Fell Raptor. They're still all a point each as well. So if you're using those marks before, in terms of points, it's probably not going to change your unit cost. So at the moment, you're still net your free light armor. So it's not really going to mess up your existing lists too much. It's the same with your character upgrades as well. They're all exactly the same, but what you are getting now is the Marauder Headman can purchase magic items up to the value of 25 points. That wasn't something that was available before, so there's another extra buff to this unit, making it slightly better. And then the special rules are slightly different as well. They now have Horde added as well, which is really, really interesting, but all the other things remain the same. And the little box at the bottom there is a reminder there that those rules now, that page replaces that that's in the Ravening Hordes book. So those are the new rules for Marauders. Very minor adjustments. The extra Horde bit is great. The light armor for free is great. And when we look at those cults rules later on as well, I think they're pretty fun as well. So Marauders have got better. How much better? I don't know. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. But that's not the only profile to change. Of course, we have Marauder Horse as well. So let's take a look at those. Much like the Marauders on foot, the stat line hasn't changed and the points haven't changed for the individual cavalry unit members, and neither is the base size, you'll be pleased to know. But again, there is a change with the equipment that you get to start with. And this time round, you are gaining shields included in those points. So again, you're getting something you originally, if you were taking shield, would have been paying a point for, that you now get included in those 12 points. So they have already got better, just straight off the bat there. You have cavalry spears and throwing spears still, and you have flails still as well. So those options haven't changed. You can still take throwing axes as well for 1 point extra, though javelins have gone. Maybe that just clears things up a little bit. Having javelins and throwing spears, bit confusing. What do they look like? I didn't run them in a previous list, so I'm not really quite sure the rules differences off the top of my head, but it definitely feels a little bit more logical. They have the same thing again with the standard. The Mark of Chaos Undivided is there included as a special rule, and you can exchange that if you want to for the new cults. So the old marks, the same with the Marauders, have gone, and they were all 2 points each on the old Marauder Horseman. The marks on the new Marauder Horseman are all a point, the same as they are on the foot. So if you were running marks before and you're exchanging them for the new cults, they're going to save you points there as well, because they're going to be a point cheaper. So we got the Cult of the Bloody Crow, Carrion Crow, Slithering Serpent, Fell Raptor, all 1 point choices for you. The command options are again exactly the same as previous, apart from the same thing as the normal Marauders. You got a 25 point option for magic items, which is really cool as well. And then in addition, this is something else that's brand new. 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 points may have the Ambushes special rule for 1 point a model. Replace Open Order special rule with Skirmishes for free, and may purchase a magic standard worth up to 50 points as well, which is really, really cool. The changes to those profiles throw up a few questions for the existing Warriors of Chaos Arcane journal for me. Now, they may have already been answered now by the time you're watching this video. At the time I'm recording this, prior to them going up on pre-order, I'm not sure what the resolution may be. So there may have been an FAQ on day one around those things. And technically, they don't need an FAQ, but people are going to be asking questions around them. First is the Marauder Tribe Chieftains, the character unit. They're still on 25 mil bases in this, so that's going to throw up some issues if you want them in your units. I'd imagine the idea would be that they would move up to 30 mil bases as well. And then we have the Marauder Tribe Berserkers, the Berserk version of the Marauders. They're of course are still on 25 mil bases. You'd expect them to be on 30s as well, especially as you'd be making those from the new plastic Marauders. I'm assuming they're going to be removing the old Marauders from the range, which throws up some question marks as well. I don't necessarily think anything else needs to change there. And then of course we have the Marauder Tribe Huskarls as well, which is the elite mounted versions of them. The base sizes don't change, but they have the older Marks of Chaos. You'd imagine them being Marauders, that they would move over to the cults as well. So I wonder if that's due a change. Be interesting. You may already know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Lots more rules still to go in the book. Before we get to those cults and the new law of magic and all the magic items, we have chaotic traits, a touch of chaos, so a nice little bit of lore leading up to it, then using chaotic traits, and it tells you who can purchase them. So again, this is something that you'll be able to use for your Warriors of Chaos as well. This isn't just for Marauders, and then nice things that you can add to your army to give it a little bit more flavour. And it's always nice when books like this come out and adjust people's previous armies as well and give them new options, and I'll whiz through these relatively quickly. We have Unnatural Fortitude. Characters, it's 20 points per model, units 2 points per miniature. Unless they're wearing heavy armour or full plate armour, models with this chaotic trait improve their toughness characteristic by 1 to a maximum of 10. Dark Arts characters is 20, units is 1 per model. Models whose troop type is infantry or cavalry only. If the winning side of a combat includes 1 or more units in which the majority of models have this chaotic trait, each unit that belongs to the losing side suffers a -1 modifier to its leadership characteristic when making its break test. Models that have this chaotic trait can cause terror or immune to psychology are unaffected. Long Striders characters 15 points a model and units 1 point per model, 0 to 1 unit per 1000 points. Unless they are wearing heavy armor or full plate armor, models with this chaotic trait gain the Vanguard special rule. Enhanced Reflexes characters 10 points per model, units 1 point per model. Whilst engaged in combat, models with this chaotic trait that choose to fight with a hand weapon gain a +2 modifier to their initiative characteristic. And it says, note that this chaotic trait only applies to a single non-magical hand weapon or ensorcelled weapon, does not apply to a model's mount, should it have one. If this model is using a two-handed weapons or any other sort of weapon, this chaotic trait ceases to apply. Battle Hunger characters 10 points a model, units 20 points for the whole unit. Models whose troop type is infantry only. A unit which consists entirely of models with this chaotic trait increases its maximum possible charge range by 2 inches and, when making a charge or pursuit roll, may apply a +D3 modifier to the result. Brazen Will characters 10 points per model, units 15 points per unit. Models whose troop type is infantry or cavalry only. A unit with this chaotic trait gains the magical resistance -1 special rule. Prophetic Foresight 10 points per character model or 10 points per unit. Enemy units that deploy using the Scout special rule cannot be deployed within 18 inches of a unit in which every model has this chaotic trait, rather than the usual 12 inches. In addition, enemy units that deploy using the Ambitious special rule may not be placed within 12 inches, rather than the usual 8 inches, of a unit which every model has this chaotic trait. Let me know which ones of those you think are good, fun, likely to use, not to see, table time. It's always interesting to know what people think in the comments. And now we move on to the Cults of Chaos, those special rules options you can purchase in place of the old marks. And we get a little bit of lore to lead us into it as well, which is always nice. And there's lots of lore in this book. So if you love your Chaos stuff, you're really going to love this. Now the Chaos Cults themselves, you can only have one type. You can't mix and match them, though a character with the mark of Chaos can join the units. And Praising the Gods. Now, once per game during a command sub-phase of its turn, a unit belonging to a chaotic cult may implore its patron for their blessing by making a leadership test. If this test is passed until its next start of turn sub-phase, all chaotic cult models within the unit gain the following benefit. If the test is failed, the unit's implorations go unheeded. Cult of the Bloodied Hand. Models belonging to this chaotic cult get a +1 modifier to their weapon skill characteristic. Cult of the Carrion Crow. Models belonging to this chaotic cult get a +1 modifier to their toughness. Cult of the Slithering Serpent. Models belonging to this chaotic cult gain the poisoned attack special rule. And then Cult of the Fell Raptor. Models belonging to this chaotic cult gain a 6+ ward save against any wounds suffered that were caused by a non-magical enemy attack. Now I really like those, and I also like that they are once per game, otherwise you could get pretty filthy. You imagine whole armies of poisoned marauders with flails and things like that going forward. I like it. It's really, really flavourful. It's something to save for that really, really important turn in the game where you really want to cause lots of damage. It could be the pivotal moment in the battle, and I really like it. So it might be that your unit's about to break and you need to hold to keep your victory points, so you use your 6-up ward or you increase your toughness. And again, you've got the options, the more attacking options, to increase your weapon skill, or the one I like is the poison one as well. That could give quite a lot of damage if you've got a really, really big block of marauders. So I like these. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, like we've seen in many of these Arcane journals before, we get a brand new lore of magic with a little bit more of a marauder theme to it, I think. So I'm going to briefly go through all the spells. Law of the Shadowlands. Now the rules for it: magic of the wastes. In addition to the laws of battle magic, demonology and dark magic listed on their profiles on page 58 of the Ravening Hordes, sorcerers of chaos may know spells from the Law of the Shadowlands, Law of Magic. As usual, you must choose one of these laws the sorcerer will know spells from when writing your muster list. Maelstrom of Chaos is the signature spell. It's a magic missile, casting value 7+, range 15 effect. Place a small 3-inch blast template so its central hole is directly over the centre of the target enemy unit. Once placed, the template will scatter D3 plus 1 inches. Any enemy model whose base lies underneath the template risks being hit and suffering a single strength 4 hit with an AP of -3. I think that's a pretty decent signature spell, especially if you're running a low level magic user. Using that as your signature with a decent AP there will sometimes be pretty useful. Blackened Bolt magic missile, casting value 8+, range 18 effect. The target enemy suffers 2d6 strength 3 hits, each with an AP of -1. Any unit that suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds from this spell must take a panic test as if it had taken heavy casualties. Slightly different flavour magic missile there. The 2d6 could be really good if you roll high. The strength is only 3, but you've got the -1 AP there. It's not going to hit anything really big, but it's going to be good against units. Veil of Gloom enchantment, casting value 9+, range 15. Until your next start of turn subphase, the target friendly unit gains a 4+ ward save against any wounds suffered that were caused by a template, and a 5+ ward save against any wounds suffered in the shooting phase. I think that's a pretty nice little buff as well. Nice utility spell, that, and maybe your signature spell. I think I'd be pretty happy with that on a level 2 or something like that. So I quite like that. Vortex of Darkness is a magical vortex, casting value 10, range 15. Remains in play. Place a small 3-inch blast template so that its central hold is within 15 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template is treated as difficult terrain. The template scatters d6 during every starter turn subphase. Any unit, friend or foe, that moves through the template or that the template moves over suffers 3d6 strength 2 hits with no armor saves allowed. Ward and regen saves can be attempted as normal. Not so sure about that one. It's one of those that feels like it could be really good with the 3d6, but you're going to roll on average 10 on 3d6, and then it's only strength 2. Which means you're going to be needing 6s most of the time. So even if you roll your average of 10 or 11, you're only going to kill 1 or 2 maybe. So it's one of those that seems really good, but on average for casting that spell, you're maybe only going to kill a couple of them. But still, when it goes off against the right type of unit, it could be really good. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I'm sure many of you know more about the competitive side of the game, and I've completely missed something there. But it seems like it looks good on paper, actually not quite as good in practice. Shadowed Assailants, and its assailment, casting value 8+. Its range is combat. A single enemy unit the caster is engaged with suffers 3d6 strength 1 hits with no armor or regen saves permitted. Ward saves can be attempted as normal. Very similar to the last one, I think, unless I'm missing something. Looks good on paper. Against the right target could be really useful, but because it's such low strength, I can imagine a lot of occasions it's just going to do nothing. But again, if you're against an opponent that has lots of big units of a low strength troops, something like that could maybe cause some damage. Crawling Mist Conveyance, casting value 6+ or 9+, range is self effect. If this spell is cast with its casting result of a 6 or more, a single friendly unit within 6 inches of the caster gains the reserve move special rule. If this spell is cast with a casting result of 9 or more, every friendly unit within 6 inches of the caster gains a reserve move special rule. This spell lasts until the end of this turn. Looks like a fun utility spell. I'm sure really good players with good positioning can put this to really good use with the lower casting value of the one of the spells as well. And you imagine moving multiple units as well. 6 inches isn't that far, so maybe it's only going to be the unit next to you. But again, at the right time in the game, being able to move units with a reserve move could be really good, and I quite like that. It's beyond my level of skillful play probably to do well, but I imagine experienced players or really good players could find some use for it. Chains of Darkness is a hex, casting value 8, range 18. Until your next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -1 modifier to its movement to a minimum of 1 and the leadership characteristics to a minimum of 2. Similar to before, I think in the right situation and the right player, the right tactics, that could be really good and really frustrating. That movement, if you're a slow moving unit like dwarves or something like that, maybe taking down their leadership at the right time just really could cause havoc. It's also the kind of thing, I imagine, in some games and some matches that it just doesn't work for you. Let me know what you think of the new lore. Is it something you would take over the existing laws that you can take as a Chaos player? I like the utility in Veil of Gloom and some of those others. The ward, the buffs is good. I think the magic missiles are okay as well, at least the level 1. And I really like the signature spell. I think that's got quite good utility. There's a couple there, as I've already mentioned, that feel like maybe you wouldn't want to roll those up, but in the right instance, like any spell, could be really fun. Now, to end the book, we have 3 pages of magic items and artifacts, and we've seen this in a lot of arcane journals. An army gets additional to their what's in their grand army list, and sometimes they get a second run like we did with Grand Cathay. It feels like they've got a lot. There's a difference to these, and I was a little bit worried when I first saw them. I thought, oh no, Warriors of Chaos are now going to get a second run of magic items, but these are a little bit different because they are an expansion to the common magical items and they can be taken by any army. So this offers something to all players out there, which is cool. So let's have a read. So the following pages expand upon the common magic items found in the Warhammer the Old World rulebook. These magic items, which represent the types of artifact commonly found in the Shadowlands, can be purchased by models in any army in exactly the same way as common magic items as described in Warhammer the Old World rulebook. Magic weapons. The first up is the Cackling Blade at 65 points. Range is obviously combat. Its strength as user +1, -1 AP, extra attacks plus d6, magical attacks, and the notes is if a natural 6 is rolled for the extra attacks plus d6 special roll, the wielder of the Cackling Blade immediately loses a wound, which is very, very chaotic, as you'd imagine. So you get your 6 attacks or your 6 extra attacks, but you also suffer a wound as well. Meteor Hammer, 50 points. Range combat, strength as user, -3 AP though. Magical attacks requires 2 hands. Making a roll to wound with this weapon, if a roll of a 3+ is always a success, regardless of the target's toughness. That's pretty cool. Hell-Forged Axe, 30 points. Range combat, of course, strength +1 user, and then -1 AP. Armor Bane 3, flaming attacks, magical attacks. And lastly, Sword of Sorrow for 30 points. Range 30 inches. That's a really, really long sword. Strength 5, -1 AP. Armor Bane 2, magical attacks, multiple wounds 2. The Sword of Sorrow is a missile weapon. It cannot be used in combat. No ward or regeneration saves are permitted against wounds caused by the Sword of Sorrow. Magic Armor, Levitating Shield, 25 points. Models whose troop type is infantry only. The Levitating Shield is a shield. In addition, the bearer may use it alongside a weapon that requires 2 hands special roll. So you've got your own shield hovering along in front of you when you're holding your 2-handed weapon. Trailblazers Halberd, 20 points. Models whose troop type is infantry only. The Trailblazers Halberd is a suit of heavy armor. In addition, its wearer gains the move through cover and scout special rules. Talismans, Icon of Fortitude, 35 points. Models whose troop type is infantry or cavalry only. The bearer is immune to multiple rules, special rule. If the bearer is wounded by an attack with this special rule, they suffer a single wound. Ironhide Talisman, 30 points. Models whose troop type is infantry only. Any enemy model that makes a successful roll to hit against the bearer of the Ironhide Talisman during the shooting phase or combat phase must re-roll any wound of a natural 6. Magic Standards, Banner of the Steadfast for 50 points. Models whose troop type is infantry only. Should a unit carrying the Banner of the Steadfast belong to the losing side of a combat, it can fall back in good order even if the unit's strength on the winning side is more than twice that of its own side. Totem of Wrath, 50 points. During a turn in which it is charged, models within a unit carrying the Totem of Wrath improve the armor-piercing characteristic of their weapons by 1 and re-roll any rolls to wound of a natural 1. Quite like that. It is pricey at 50 points. Banner of the Swirling Wind, 30 points. Any enemy model that shoots at a unit carrying the Banner of the Swirling Wind suffers an additional -1 to hit modifier. And the last magic standard is the Monster Hunter's Tapestry at 25 points. Enemy units may not make stomp attacks against this unit carrying the Monster Hunter's Tapestry. Now on the last page of the book, we're moving on to the enchanted items. We have the Arch Lightning Rod at 40 points. Single use during the command subphase of their turn. If they are not engaged in combat, the bearer of the Arch Lightning Rod may attempt to use it by making a leadership test using their own unmodified leadership. If this test is passed, your next turn, start a subphase, enemy units cannot use the fly special rule. We've seen the anti-fly thing in many books now. Potion of Fervour, 30 points. Single use. During the command subphase of their turn, the bearer of the Potion of Fervour can consume it until the end of that turn. The model has a plus D3 modifier to its attack characteristic to a maximum of 10. Note that a model can only consume a single potion of any type per command phase. Becalming Orb, 20 points. Single use. The bearer of the Becalming Orb may cast the following bound spell with a power level of 1. Type Hex, casting value 8, range self effect until your next start of turn subphase. Enemy wizards that are within 15 inches of the caster when attempting to cast a spell must increase the spell's casting value by 2. Arcane items. Staff of Quietude, 35 points. During the command subphase of their turn, the bearer of the Staff of Quietude can attempt to unleash its power by making a leadership test. If this test is passed, all remains in play spells currently in play are dispelled, including spells cast by friendly models. Scroll of Disruption, 30 points. Once per turn, the bearer of the Scroll of Disruption may reroll at a spell roll. Tome of Spellcraft, 30 points. Once per turn, the bearer of the Tome of Spellcraft may re-roll a casting roll. Note that when either of these items are used, all dice are re-rolled, including any bonus or discard dice granted by the special rules or magic items. Now those are all really fun, especially as they are core magic common items now, and it'd be really nice to see how those fit into different army lists and different uses. And I'm really looking forward to all your thoughts in the comments on that, how you're going to use them, or I don't like any of them, or you're going to use this in this army, this will work great with this is going to make this really broken, because it's nice to see things that can be used by everyone and can affect everything as well. So that's really cool. I think there's going to be lots of chatter around those, loads of different permutations, so I'm looking forward to reading the comments below and looking at all the other content from the other providers out there, the people that no doubt have already leaked this book before I produce this video or put this video out. But I'm looking forward to hearing the community chat about those new items, because the chances of mixing up the meta a little bit with some of those things are really interesting. And that's it. That's the book. I think there's a lot of really great stuff in here, and stuff for everyone, as we've just seen with those new magic items. I think the controversial parts are replacing pages in existing books within the edition. We get that a little bit with FAQs and things anyway. Personally, I'm fine with it, but we aren't quite 2 years into the game yet, and the main army list has had some changes now, the main one being to the base sizes, but the other things are buffs that make that unit better as well, and hopefully we'll see some more play. So personally I don't mind, but do let me know, keep it respectful, but let me know in the comments below if you think it's a problem. I think the main one will be people with existing armies suddenly thinking, oh, got to rebase Marauders, and I have some to rebase, so I'll have to do it myself as well. But I would rather have these new miniatures and have these new rules and have to rebase my unit than not have to. But all of our experiences will vary on that, depending on how many you need to rebase. And I do think it's a little bit odd that they didn't address Maybe it's just because of space. They didn't address what to do with those other units because there's some questions there, but maybe they've already been updated in an FAQ, as I've mentioned already. I haven't got anything really negative to say about the book. I really like the lore. The first bit was a little bit of a rehash of stuff we already knew, but it was context and setting the scene. And I did like all of the lore around the cults and the different names for the Chaos Gods. I think that's great. It's very old world flavour and brings something new to the Marauders. We get an idea here of how you can play different Marauder armies and different themes, depending on what you want to do, whether it's the Kurgan or the Hung or whatever it happens to be. And if you want to have a more of a Norse army that's not gone to Chaos, you could not take those extra things, just keep it as markers of Undivided and really play down on that, take no magic maybe, and you could use the Wolves of the Sea list or the standard list to build a Norse Marauder army that hasn't yet fallen to Chaos if you wanted to. And those Marauders are better now, so I think that helps them a little bit. I think that's fun. And you can have the Berserkers in there as well. They could still go berserk. They're running around all smacked up on something or other. The fun-loving criminals of the Chaos ways at the North. But I think you've got lots and lots of sort of narrative exploration with the book, and you can have different themes of Chaos Marauder armies. And if you just have units of Chaos Marauders in your main grand army list, then they've got better as it is anyway. So I think there's lots of utility there. The Path of Glory stuff is great. It's brief, it's basic, but I think with the tables and the advancement, it's just a really simple, nice way of doing it. And adding that to the Battle March stuff we've already seen, maybe using some of those terrain generation tables as well that we saw in the Dawn of the Storm Dragon. We've really got some nice campaigny, casual narrative-y style stuff, which I just absolutely love. And I wonder one day whether that could all be pulled together in one book as a sort of a campaign style book. We've got the match play guide, and maybe have the kind of the alternative, the yin yang option to that, which will be the Path to Glory rules, all of those terrain generation tables, and all of the little bits, maybe Battle March shoved in there as well, and have that as there's more of the casual and narrative ways to play elements. Could be really, really cool. If there is anything I would have liked to have seen or missed opportunities, and it's probably down to page count, would have been I'd have loved to have seen another character profile for Marauders here. I know we've got one in the existing Arcane Journal, but some kind of new character to lead the Marauders that isn't Friedel. A special character would be nice. But you could do a lot of that anyway by making up your own character names and things. And if anything, out of this whole release, including the miniatures as well, I'd have loved to have seen a plastic commander set or a hero and standard set for this army that's new Marauder style. If you want to have a full Marauder list and you want to make use of that chieftain that is in the previous Arcane Journal, the Warriors of Chaos Arcane Journal, there's no miniature for it really. There's nothing in the existing range for Olbar that does it, so we go over to the Age of Sigmar range and we're using those models. And there's some really cool models of the Dark Oath. I'm using them, but it feels like that there's an opportunity there where this beautiful new book, this beautiful reinforcements box, another box with a character footer mounted, a bit like the Cathayan one, etc. Just would be really, really good to go and make your own chieftain, your Marauder style chieftain there. Hopefully that's not too disappointing. I'm still super happy with the book and the miniatures. I think it's a great list, a great release, and I'm really excited that we might see more of books like this with maybe more reinforcement sets in the future. But that's it. I will stop talking at you now and let you put your comments at the bottom of what you think of the release. You're going to be starting a new Marauder theme list or just adding these new Marauders to your army. You're going to be picking up the miniatures and all of that stuff. Love new releases and how excited everyone gets. The game is vibrant and thriving at the moment. And I don't think there's anything in this book that does anything other than heighten that and make it even better, even with the slightly disgruntled people that have got to rebase a few of their Marauders or feel like they have to buy this book in order to replace core army list stuff. I think it's an improvement to the rules, and I'd rather have that, as I said earlier. Should it be a free thing? I don't know. Debate it all you want, but I think it's really, really good. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a like and drop those comments below. It really helps the video be seen by other people. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do. You'll notice there's loads and loads of Warhammer the Old World content on there, and there'll be lots more coming soon, including painting videos for those new Marauders, burning buildings, and some other stuff related to this book on the way as well. So please subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any of those. Please do check out all the links in the video description. Come and join the Miniature Realms Discord for some really friendly, laid-back Warhammer chat. In fact, you can chat about any game system under the sun there. I'll cover an awful lot on the channel. Please check out my Patreon. It really is the very, very best way of supporting me and helping me continue to make videos like this. I love doing it, but it does take a lot of time, and the financial support I get from my existing patrons I really appreciate, and it really helps me being able to keep making videos like this. Please do check out the other links in the video description as well, including my channel sponsor, Counter Attack Bases. Loads and loads of great gaming aids for Warhammer the Old World, custom dice, and loads of other cool stuff. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.